Ocean Pines is a vibrant residential community nestled on Maryland's eastern shore. With over 9 miles of waterfront property, amenities like an 18-hole championship golf course and a public yacht club, and a rich history dating back to 1968. Of course, if you live here, you probably know most of that. And if you don't, it's almost all apparent from your first visit. Each week on the PinesCast, we work to bring out the ocean pines that might be less apparent. We celebrate the region, the amenities, and, most of all, the people who make and keep Ocean Pines a special place to live. Welcome to the PinesCast, your source of news and insights about Ocean Pines and the official podcast of the Ocean Pines Association. In this episode, we speak with Deputy Director of Public Works, Nobie Violante. He is not only the Deputy Director, but also an Ocean Pines resident with deep roots in the community. Nobie offers us a fascinating glimpse into his career with the Ocean Pines Public Works Department, detailing his work on the Bulkhead crew and explaining the intricate process of maintaining and replacing bulkheads. We explore the complexities of bulkhead maintenance, from permitting to emergency repairs, and we gain valuable insights into the efforts that keep Ocean Pines waterfront properties in top shape. Remember to please subscribe wherever you are listening now, and if you have any feedback, please email me at bytonyrusso@gmail.com. That is BYTONYRUSSO, all one word, at Gmail. And that's all I've got for you now. This episode is sponsored, as always, by Tidal Health, and they have a message for you in the middle of the show. But first, let's get to Nobie. Let's get you to Ocean Pines first, and then work our way backwards from there. So when did you move to Ocean Pines, and why?
Around 94, because it's kind of funny that my dad worked for a factory in Baltimore, and where his factory was, they actually tore the factory down to build the Ravens Stadium.
Oh, that's funny. For those of you who weren't, this is not recorded. We were just talking about the recent Ravens game. We're recording on September 6th. You're not going to hear this until the middle of October. So hopefully the Ravens' fortunes have changed by the time this comes out, if you're a Ravens fan. So yes, they tore the factory down to build the Ravens Stadium. So you love Angelos almost as much as I do. And so how'd you get across the bay?
Relocated to a new job in Salisbury, Maryland, and moved to Ocean Pines when there was a lot of dirt roads in here and not much development.
And I guess then in the early 90s, there was kind of a bit of a housing slump. So it was probably a good time to buy land in Ocean Pines.
Yes. Even where we moved on Ocean Parkway, it was still a dirt road on Ocean Parkway at that time.
Wow. And what was your impression? So how old were you when you got here?
Oh my, I would say maybe 17, 18 years old.
Oh, that's a great time to change locations from the city to the country, huh?
Oh, yeah.
And so what were your initial impressions? I guess, were you done with high school? Did you finish at Stephen Decatur? What was that?
I did the last 2 years at Decatur, and graduated in 96.
And what was it like in Ocean Pines growing up as a teenager then?
It was definitely a big culture change. Going from the city to Ocean City. I mean, you come here to visit a lot, but you never really lived here.
Right.
Very slow in the winter, very fast in the summer, and you'd had to learn how to adapt.
And what were some of the things that you would like to do that you guys were doing back in the 90s?
At the beach a lot of surfing. It was kind of weird going from a lot of ice hockey to being in the water every day.
Like making friends and things like that, did you find that difficult? There were already a bunch of kids living in Ocean Pines by the early 90s, right?
Yeah, it was definitely different. From how you dressed and the people you met, and quite different.
So when you were going back and forth to school, was that a bus? Were you driving by then?
Pretty much either a bus or catching a ride with whoever was driving that way.
Whoever got the car that morning.
There you go.
You mentioned the dirt roads. How many paved roads were there? Was Ocean Pines paved at all? I had thought that a bunch of it had been paved out by the 90s.
Some of it was, but like section 10, if you're familiar with that, which is the south-south end at the four-way intersection.
Right.
That was pretty much all dirt roads all the way out to the point.
Wow. I mean, well, 589 was paved at least.
Correct. Yep.
That was something that it had going for you. I don't know if you remember specifically what your first winter was like, but what was it like to watch Ocean Pines empty out in the late summer and early fall? And how did you guys kind of adjust to having the run of the place?
It definitely was different. It kind of like, I guess the best way to say it is like a ghost town in the winter. You would really know who everybody is because you'd see the same people all the time.
Right.
And then in the summer, everybody would kind of get busy and you would branch out and see maybe more of your friends from the city in different places come visit.
And then lather, rinse, repeat as the summer wore on.
Right.
Your dad didn't stay working in Salisbury, right? Eventually he got a job in Ocean Pines?
He did. He actually worked here for the Parks and Recreation for a bunch of years.
And what was that? What was that like having him A, closer so he was around all the time, and B, kind of in charge of the places that you were skulking around as a teenager?
Oh, I mean, it was great. It was definitely great having my mom and my dad here all them years. My brother too. I don't know. It was definitely a different life change moving here.
And so did your dad get you the job, or did you just decide you wanted to do what he was doing? How did you come to work for Ocean Pines?
Well, I think I'm like everybody. We all started in restaurants and kind of felt our way through. And then I actually worked at Ocean City, and the lady I worked for, her father was the public works director at the time. And I just decided I need a real job with benefits and just stuck with it.
Oh, wow. And so what was your job when you first started? What was like your day to day?
Anything that needed to be done.
Can you give me some examples of things that needed to be done?
From cleaning out drainage pipes to operating equipment, expanded on, driving the bigger trucks, working on the bulkheads a lot. Just pretty much everything at Ocean Pines.
So when you say working on the bulkheads a lot, what did you have an official job title? What was that?
I was just on the bulkhead crew at that time, and I just learned how to make a lot of repairs, learned how everything got put together, basically day-to-day operations, and just kept working my way up.
And was your dad your supervisor? Was he with you, or was he just at a different section at that time?
He actually came here after I was here.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't get that part.
Yeah, he was here after me, and then he worked for Public Works for a little bit, cutting like the easements and things like that. And then there was opportunity for him to go to the Parks and Recreation and do a lot of the Christmas lightings and event setups. And that's what he went over and started doing.
That's cool. So I'm sorry, we keep talking about him. Can you say your father's name so that way everyone knows who we're talking about?
It's Nobie Violante Sr.
And that's why you go by Nobie.
Yes.
That makes the most sense. And I'm sure he's well remembered in the community.
He is.
When you kind of got into the bulkhead repair thing, is that like the Golden Gate Bridge? Is that just like you get to the end and you start again, or is there a plan? What is the plan? Like, do you put the plan together at the beginning of the year and then change it as the year goes on? How does that work?
So we base everything on what they call a DMA study. It's a study that they've put together for a 30-year plan for the bulkheads that basically time and date everything and basically tell you when the bulkheads do, the condition and different things like that.
Is it like a program or just something you do by hand? Like how do you know when things are deteriorating, or do you have to go out and check all the time?
So we track everything with work orders, and we constantly keep going out and checking where the most complaints come from. And typically that's where the walls are getting worse. And then we use that with the guidance of the DMA to kind of figure out exactly what we need to replace.
That's cool. And what's involved in replacing the bulkheads? It looks troublesome, but I've never looked closer than that.
A lot goes into it. The first thing we need to do is actually apply for permits through the state, the county, and the Army Corps of Engineers. And once we get through that process, then you'll get a letter from the county letting you know that we're going to be doing new bulkheads. And after the county reaches out to you with their letter, we'll follow up with a letter as well, letting you know that your property is going to get a new bulkhead with roughly 3 months notice from us that we're going to be doing the work. And then then we start taking the phone calls from people that are asking about boat lifts and docks and what they need to remove. And then myself and the contractor will go out and meet with homeowners and go through the whole thing of what can stay or what has to be removed and try to give them a cost analysis with the contractor, because we don't have anything to do with their docks or their boat lifts or anything like that.
All right. Now let me take you back a little bit, because I, as a non-boat owner, only a third of what you said made sense to me. So the first thing I want to ask, though, is, so you need permits even to replace. You don't need permits just for new ones, or do you need permits for just new ones and you can replace them whenever you feel like it?
So a permit for us is only good for 3 years.
Okay.
So we put together a 5-year plan, and we permit that 5-year plan for 3 years. And then we go back and we start working on another 5-year plan.
I see. And so if you want to replace the bulkhead in front of my house, you still have to get a permit from the state.
Yes, anything that gets put in the water needs a permit.
That is fascinating, because you would think that you just yank one out and put one back in. And although I know it's not as simple as that, when you go and speak with the homeowners, what are the kind of things? So let's kind of direct this toward some of the people who have property that need bulkhead replacement, and also have stuff out there that has to be dealt with. What are some of the kind of common things that people expect? And what are some of the surprises when you're like, well, you probably should have that moved or whatever? How does that work?
I think there's a lot of mixed communication out there on what's expected to be done or not done. And I think that's when we play a big part in actually meeting one-on-one with the homeowner to explain everything in detail.
Right.
So they have a better understanding of what needs to be done. Because I think there's a little differences from like when they purchase their properties, what their responsibilities are.
Yeah, we've had a lot of real estate agents on here, and I know that they're all very nice people and honest and good people. I don't know how hard they hit these are the downsides in 15 years when they're selling the house. So what are some of like the specific things that people think that they can do or think that they can't do, and turn out that they can or can't do them?
Well, I think everybody believes that like their docks, when they're taken pretty much all apart and removed, that's the cost of Ocean Pines to put the docks and boat lifts back in at Ocean Pines' expense. All we are doing is replacing the wall, but we don't replace like walkways, paver patios, boat lifts. And to be honest with you, every property in Ocean Pines is unique in its own way, depending on what they have put in their backyards.
You say you have you make a 5-year plan, and then you execute the 5-year plan over kind of like 3-year increments. So it's always like 1.5 kind of ahead. So how long does the average homeowner have in between bulkhead replacements?
This is a cycle we do every September 1st through the winter months. I like to call this place our Disney, because everybody likes their property to be in pristine shape for the summer months, because that's when they're here to enjoy it. So that's what we try to gear everything we do in timely manner that can happen.
Right. And you said that you give the homeowners notice, but if I wanted to plan for the next, let's say you finished my bulkhead this fall, when will you be back, do you think? Like if I'm going to plan, like, okay, I'm going to have to replace my dock again in X years, do you know about how long between replacements, or does it have to do with wear and tear?
So that's a good question. So we started out replacing with wood, and now that the vinyl market has come down and we've been getting a parasite damage in the lumber, we actually started in putting vinyl in. And when we started putting the vinyl in, we're getting a 50-year plus out of the vinyl versus a 30-year plus out of the lumber. So now it's going to change the scope of things a little bit on how long for a replacement. But with that said, I have people already calling for next year and 2 years out that would like to put new docks in or boat lifts. So I'll even go out with the contractor and give them guidance on what we can do to be real cost effective for them for 2 years from now, that's going to help them.
But because that would be unfortunate if if you bought your house and you had all this work done and you found out that if you would put it off for just 18 months, you wouldn't have had to do it twice.
Exactly.
Hey there, listeners. Are you in the Ocean Pines area and looking for a pharmacy that goes above and beyond? Look no further than Tidal Health Home Scripts. Open 6 days a week, our knowledgeable pharmacists are ready to fill your prescriptions in just minutes. Plus, we offer free home delivery in the Ocean Pines area and have a super convenient drive-through window. Need over-the-counter items? We've got a large selection. And with our monthly sales, you'll find everything you need at great prices. Conveniently located at the North Gate of Ocean Pines, Tidal Health Home Scripts is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. To fill a prescription or arrange for a free home delivery, give us a call at 410-543-4769. That's 410-543-4769. Remember, that's Tidal Health Home Scripts, your trusted pharmacy partner. And are there things that tend to work better, that tend to come down and go up easier? Like if you were buying a house on the water and you were going to set up your water access, how would you set it up so that it was the most efficient to replace in case you needed to have it replaced?
So let's say you bought a house. The first thing I tell realtors and anybody else is have them call Ocean Pines, our county agency, or even the state, and we will be more than glad to go out and tell you how to offset your dock and different things. So that way, in 2 years, it'll be a lot easier to install the new bulkhead so you don't have to take none of your stuff out.
Right.
So that's what we try to be real proactive with that and help as much as we can.
And again, like for yourself, so like would it make more sense to put in like a floating dock, or you're also talking about replacing patios, and I can't picture, so you would be taking the bulkhead out from under the patio and that's why the patio would need replacing?
As of now, you're only supposed to have a maximum of a 4-foot wide walkway to the bulkhead. A lot of times over the years, people have put in like paver patios right up to the edge of the bulkheads. And when we go to put the new bulkhead in, the old bulkhead and all that gets pretty much ripped out or cut down. And all that patio is going to slough into the new bulkhead area. And it's all going to be ruined because we have a 15-foot setback, a working right of way, right, where there's nothing supposed to be in that area.
And so how often do you, like if you were to go out and see that, would you advise a homeowner, hey, if you can just pull up some of those pavers, you're going to save yourself a lot of headache? Is that kind of how those inspections go?
Right. And like I said, a lot of these are unique. Not everybody has those big patios, but the first thing you start telling them is, hey, that big, great walkway that's there that was built has to all come up. And it's like, oh my, it's cost so much money. But when you buy your house in them DNRs, if you read through them, it says right in there, nothing's supposed to be in that easement. Now, you might have bought the house with that stuff already done, but you maybe didn't read into it enough or you didn't pay attention to it. And I guess at the end of the day, we're the bad guys because we got to explain that to you.
Yeah.
And it can get real touchy for a lot of people.
Yeah, I can imagine, because I'll tell you that if it were me, the first thing that I would have thought is, well, the last owners must have gotten special permission to put this in, and that's why it's there. Not the last owners did it without checking with anybody, and that's why it's there. You know, those, I can imagine those kind of disconnects happen a lot.
Yes, it does. A lot of this stuff was done way before, and everybody likes to say grandfathered in, but in today's world, grandfathered in, if you don't have that piece of paper stamped, notarized from the county agency or somebody, I don't think it's going to stand anymore, to be honest.
Yeah, and I guess the cost of replacement is less than the cost of fighting Ocean Pines in court for 50 years just to prevent you. I mean, because I'm sure that in the occasional upset, people forget that the bulkheads aren't there just because you guys think it would be cool to have bulkheads, right?
With that being said, when you put a dock and a boat lift out into the water, the property line exceeds into the water, but the water is owned by the state. That's why we have to get the state approval to put things in their area.
Right.
And I think that's kind of missed a little bit on some of this, where these things get approved and put in, but then they think it should be up to us to pay for it. But that in reality, that's not. We didn't put it there. We put the bulkhead there, but we didn't put all the extra stuff in the federal and state water.
Right. That makes perfect sense to me. When you're going through the process of like evaluating, are you ever able to, I don't want to say put it off in a bad way, but do you ever let something go a little bit longer because it'll last? Like if it's on the list to be replaced, but it looks good, do you tend to leave them for a little bit longer, or do you stick to the schedule pretty hard?
We try to stick to the schedule, but we will push things out. If I got a guy that has a wall that's fallen in and he's due for replacement in 2 years, and I got a guy that's on the list that his wall is perfectly fine, I've never been there for a service call, everything's good, then we can move things around a little bit, not take them out of the loop, but push them out 2 or 3 more years and do some stuff that's got higher priority.
So I didn't know that there was such a thing as maintenance. I figured they were just up or down. So what's a maintenance call like? What are some of the things that people will call for to have maintenance done on their bulkheads?
A lot of it's settlement and erosion, sinkholes, where it could be something as simple as if you have rain gutters running from your house out through the bulkhead and one of them fail, and then the dirt on heavy rains will actually go out of these holes that were meant for rain gutters, but the rain gutter's not there no more. So then we have these holes in the bulkhead. I think about 5 or 6 years ago, the county came in and said there will be no more holes through Ocean Pines bulkheads for rain gutters.
And that makes sense because that's undermining the entire integrity and also of your whole lawn. It's not even just of the bulkheads. It's your backyard. You get California mudslide kind of conditions.
Right. And I'm not saying that's always the cause. I mean, sometimes we do have sinkholes and things really down far low, and we try to address those things and fix them, and then we fill everything up with some dirt and some seed to get it back up to ground level.
And that really is it. Like you bring in a dump truck and you just fill the hole until the hole is filled, and then put the grass back on it, and then the people are good to go.
Exactly.
Are these damageable? Are they ever damaged by like boats or storms or things like that? What are other ways that bulkheads can be damaged, or can they be damaged? I like I said, I'm ignorant of bulkheads. I'm almost as ignorant of bulkheads as I am of what's going on with the New York Jets.
I haven't really seen too much damage because we stick pretty good to nothing's supposed to be attached to our bulkheads. They're pretty durable when it comes to someone bumping into them with a boat. You're not allowed really to anchor anything to them. And we do all that so we don't have these problems, different ways of harnesses and different ways to pull jet skis out. Everything is designed so it doesn't mess with the integrity of the bulkheads.
That's interesting. You said that you're pretty good at checking. Do you guys go around like by boat and kind of do inspections regularly just to make sure that your plan matches up with the age of the bulkheads?
We check the bulkheads from time to time. We have over 14 miles of bulkheads. So most of it is when people call in about their sinkholes and different issues, then we really start watching these walls and seeing what they're doing.
Yeah, especially because if I have a sinkhole, you've got to wonder what's going on either side of me, right?
Right. And a lot of times they're due for replacement within 1 to 3 years, and we're just going to keep doctoring them until that time hits. And then if that works, that's what we'll do. But we also do emergencies, and that's a whole different thing. So like if we get a bad storm and the wall pulls away and blows out, then we have to do a different method of getting permits to address these ones that we really have a blowout.
That's crazy. I can't imagine that. So has that happened recently? Can you tell me about a time where you had to go and fix a wall that was coming down because of a storm? Or
So what'll happen if we get a heavy rain and the bulkhead has what they call tie rods, and if the tie rods rust off and the hydrostatic pressure behind the wall because of the rainwater will actually make the wall start pushing out. So then if you run a string line from one end of the property to the other end of the property, you could see the wall is actually going to be kicked out, and then the earth will start dropping down behind the wall.
Wow. And so what is that process like to get that fixed up?
We expedite the permits to get them done fast. We will go out and drive temporary poles if we have to, so the wall doesn't continue pushing out. And then we'll just go ahead and get the work done as soon as we can get the permits back and get it worked in.
And so when you say drive poles, you mean literally into like the seabed or the bay bed or the canal bed or whatever.
Correct. So we'll go right next to the wall where it's pushing out, and we'll actually drive the pole, and then that way that'll hold from that thing pushing out anymore, just as a temporary fix until we can get the permits and everything back.
Oh, that's very cool. And I guess on the other side of it, can you talk to me about, like, what are some of the favorite parts of your job? What are the things you look forward to doing in your work?
I enjoy getting out in the field, meeting with people, explaining things. I take a lot of time to try to make sure that people get the right answers. I try to get the communication out there where it makes sense, and we try to do the best we can to work with the homeowners and go out and talk to people just to try to help, because this could be a very costly thing if we just go, oh, I don't know, you just do it. So I like to get out in the field as much as I can.
Excellent. And I am just about out of time and questions, but that doesn't mean there's not more to talk about. Is there something that I should have asked you that I didn't? Or is there something that you thought you'd have the opportunity to say, but I didn't provide it to you?
I just hope people continue to call in for the answers that they need, and hope we can keep serving the public like we do.
And how is the current replacement going? Are you guys on schedule? Are you ahead of schedule? Are you behind schedule? Where are you now? Because I guess you're getting ready to start doing this regularly.
We're actually finishing up an emergency, and we're going to another emergency, and we'll be right on our normal schedule.
Excellent. And you work like through to like February? Must get cold out.
All winter long.
Brutal. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story with me. And I look forward to having you back on maybe next fall. See how this winter went for you.
All right. Thank you for your time.
The PinesCast is an Ocean Pines Association production. It was written and edited by me, Tony Russo. Our executive producer is Josh Davis. Please subscribe wherever you are listening right now, or follow if you're on Apple. If you like the show, please tell someone else, because that is the best way to get the word out. And especially with this episode, there are so many details about what's going on inside, like bulkhead culture. If you know someone who has a waterfront property, they need to hear this, and they might not if you don't tell them. And of course, as I mentioned in the beginning, we would love to have your feedback, and I would love to keep this conversation going. If you care to email me, you can do that at bytonyrusso@gmail.com. That is bytonyrusso@gmail. And of course, we would love to have your ratings and reviews on the app of your choice, but mostly we want you to listen to the show. We want you to like the show, and we would very much like it if you told other people about it. You can also send along comments or questions that we will address in future episodes as is possible and appropriate. And that is all for this week on the PinesCast.